good evening and welcome to Undaunted Weekly Briefings. I am Star Smart. Let's begin.
This week on ABC Amber TV was one of its kind. Revelations were made, facts were high, signals of successes were visible, clarifications were ascertained. This week's feedback shows that it was very educational. From analysis of exclusive discussion with Mr. Tao, where he had Barrister Fu Junso, Barrister Tim Besia et al. As guests, down to State of Liberation Movement with Secretary Martin Mungwa, PhD. It was indeed a special week.
Do not forget that Undaunted Weekly Recap majors on highlights from the week, just in case you missed out. We are right here with the recap proper, but we'll get it to you just after the break. The media greatly influences society. They inform people about what is happening. It permeates people's lives by creating their own criteria and opinions. In this way, the media moves the masses, creating different social movements.
For over 60 years, the people of Ambazonia were deprived of such privileges. The privilege to enhance their own criteria and opinion. They have suffered cultural genocide for 6 long decades, but not in this age and not with Undaunted ABC Amber News on board.
You must understand that wars are fought and won in the media. The speed of the revolution on Ambazonia's quest for freedom cannot be explained without highlighting the diligent use of the media.
Franco-Cameroon colonizers, among other strategic moves, weaponized the media against Ambazonia for so long, and they continue to do so even today. The question would be, how much do the oppressed people of Ambazonia need to counter the media rage?
Indeed, how much more is required to stop the genocide? The carnage in Ambazonia didn't start today. In 1961, 1972, 1984, and 1992, Ambazonians were slaughtered in huge numbers and help was not forthcoming. Why? Because the oppressor was the piper in the media.
The good news is we have what it takes to dictate the pace.
Right now, ABC Amber TV is taking advantage of the wonders of multimedia aggressively
to inform the misinformed and disinformed with Undaunted and other revolutionary programs bringing it to the news untold stories.
Most importantly, to win the media war by taking ABC Amber TV into every multimedia platform.
In a word, where the importance of storytelling can never be overemphasized, Ambazonians has to tell her own story, not the other way round.
And like we say it always, Ambazonia must narrate her story accurately. We can do this together, you know, right? You are just a click away. Visit our website at www.abcambertv.com, and the steps are quite simple.
With just a click on the website, you can become a club member with so many benefits.
You can also make a one-time donation, advertise and showcase your goods and services at the marketplace on the website.
That was easy, right? You're welcome on board.
And thank you for opting for the winning team.
Now, welcome back. This week on Undaunted, we started with global economic trends. We told you that global economic trend is exacerbated by weather, violence, COVID-19, and Russian invasion of Ukraine, and they are threatening food security in Africa. Food shortages lead to not only famine and starvation, but directly correlates to other challenges such as conflict and violence, democratic backsliding, and human rights access and obstacles to sustainable development. But this can be tactically taken care of in Ambazonia because the soil of southern Cameroon's Ambazonia produces all types of crops from plants, stable, and fruits.
Now, the fertile segregates on what must be cultivated. Different crops do well in different zones in Amazonia, southern Cameroon, with facts generated. The Republic of Amazonia is the breadbasket of neighboring La République du Cameroon and countries of the Central African sub-region. The northern zones and southern zones of southern Cameroon are rich in the production of a variety of crops, fruits, and vegetables.
On Monday, the 14th of November, we told you that Elangwe Joseph has questioned clear and loud why, after 61 years of La Republic's intrigues, manipulations, divide and rule, and unfulfilled promises, which can be glaringly seen, some Amazonians, whom he rightly describes as Anglophiles, continues to believe that what could not be done in over 60 years can be done now when La Republic du Cameroon is very broke because of the devastating effects of the senseless war.
Now, another interesting topic we brought to you this week is the colonial La République du Cameroon ruler, Paul Biya, has, under the guise of his party, come the ruling party, the Cameroon's People Democratic Movement, CPDM, mobilized a handful of supporters to himself with taxpayers' money. He has managed to keep them loyal to him, and this group of dishonest individuals, for their belly's sake, will defend Paul Biya on every platform they are opportune to, even with their lives. Of course, they don't have many lives, for they have long offered their lives to Paul Biya for top positions in government, for fame and fast cash. While these top party comrades of Biya feed fat from the state coffers, grassroots supporters of CPDM are left to feed on crumbs and fallacious promises.
Now, in a video produced and made public on Sunday, November 13th, the commander of the Ambazonia Restoration Forces, Christian Bui Warriors, Major General Tokandu, saluted the bravery of his forces and enjoined them to remain steadfast in their mission to liberate homeland and stand strong with the IG and President Sako. He used the occasion to call on other ARFs to fortify their local government areas and counties and increase firepowers on the ground.
Now, Bamenda Regional Hospital Director sounded an alarm over rising cases of killed, injured by gunshots. He revealed that at least 72 corpses, 135 injured received at hospital in 9 months. And by the report at the time, the Yaoundé regime songbird continues mountain rooftops to sing about speedy return to normalcy within the conflict-hit southern Cameroon's Amazonia. Statistics from the medics rather present a more disturbing situation on the ground. Fresh statistics provided by healthcare providers rather paint a situation of more citizens being rushed to the hospital with gunshot wounds and a disturbing number of corpses deposited at the mortuary because of gunshots.
Monday debate on ABC Amber TV was one of its kind. Revelations were made, facts were high signed, clarifications. Feedback has it that the program was quite educational. Barrister Fujon so expressly wouldn't understand, while a very intelligent man like Professor Kausin Ayangwe will exhibit so much jealousy in his words and actions towards the president, Dr. Samuel Sako, a man who has sacrificed his life for the freedom of his people. To whom much is given, much is expected. This alone explains why, out of dismay, Barrister so expects that Professor Ayangwe, a great scholar, a great lawyer, should do better. He said, in spite of his rich academic profile, Kausen Ayangwe has never been a good leader and that he doesn't understand what the revolution is all about. Barrister Fru lamented said that Professor Ayangwe has thrown his back on Amazonia.
Now, we talked about Neratin. What happened to the Neratin? There were unanswered questions that Undaunted managed to tackle this week. And having a flashback, according to reports, Neratin, these are highly educated gentlemen with careers in significant niche areas. Most of them are university professors with distinguished academic credentials in disciplines such as veterinary surgery, structural engineering, architecture, and ICT, and they have a track record of significant contributions in knowledge generation and in community engagement. We have seen the feats of Amazonian restoration forces since the Lava Storm 3 began, and we've also brought to you this week's series of videos of the Amazonian restoration forces using their improvised explosive devices on the enemy in live recorded battles and gunshot exchange between both parties and security status updates. Well, it is a war, and so we have also seen a couple of deaths of our Amazonian restoration forces. Well, this revelation has indeed attracted more sympathizers than it did 5 years ago. Although we learned this week from the table of the panelists that the ADF and under Choyaba has killed more armed restoration forces than the colonial forces have killed.
At the morning hours of Thursday, November 17th, the students of GBHS Bamenda became uncontrollable, causing the school day to end abruptly. The incident that provoked the pandemonium has gathered by Undaunted. A student had a scuffle with one of the military men stationed on the school campus in the name of ensuring security. The said Form 4 students resisted not to follow the colonial officer into their disciplinary room, punched the military officer. The colleagues of this colonial officer then bundled the student into their disciplinary room to probably flog him, as it is always the normal. Now, due to this circumstance, we got the Secretary of State for Education and Strategic Collaboration, Professor Beatrice Epote. She has something to say.
With great dismay that we learn of yet another attack by La République military on the education of Amazonian children. This time, La République military caused GTHS Bamenda to close unexpectedly after they had a brutal confrontation with the students. As the Department of Education and Strategic Collaboration, we wish to express our sincere sympathy to all the students of GTHS Bamenda for the chaos caused by this unfortunate incident. We wish to use this opportunity to reiterate the fact that Amazonian children are not safe in schools at the moment. This is the IG stance as far as going to school is concerned. Our children are not safe, the environment is not safe for them, and we call on parents to please consider the safety of their children as a priority. We are equally expressing our sympathy to the school administration and the teachers, and also call on them to please note that the situation in which we are is not conducive for education until such a time when measures will be put in place for safe education for our children. We will plead with both the school administrators and the parents to look into this issue and put the safety of the children and the teachers first. We are at this moment calling on UNESCO and UNICEF to intervene in what is happening in Amazonia and make sure that Amazonian children go to school in a safe environment. We want to reiterate the fact that what is happening in Amazonia is a violation of both the UN Human Rights 26 and the Children's Right, UN Declaration on Children's Right, number 28. Every child has the right to formal education. And the fact that Amazonian children are not able to go to school in a safe environment means that they are being denied this right. And we are therefore calling on the UN to intervene through UNESCO and UNICEF so that Amazonian children can enjoy the privilege that other children are enjoying.
Now, moving on with the recap for this week, Honorable Ekole Peters was speaking on the opening day of the November session of Colonial La République du Cameroon National Assembly that was on November 11th, 2022. And such public utterances from a member of parliament for Kumba local government area that was said that day, some utterances, Meme County, one of the hottest spots of the war ravaging the entire Amazonia, shocked his people when he said there is no war in the southwest region. Quote, I am going to fight for peace vigorously in 2023. With all my might, I am a resident of Kumba and I have never been attacked by any person. People should not come here and say that there is war in the southwest. There is no war in the southwest.
All right, we also gave you this report that a Colonial La République du Cameroon military man that at press time Undaunted was unable to get the name has shot a road user for refusing to be part of his corrupt scheme. The unfortunate road user, who is still to come to terms with the fact that corruption is legal in La République du Cameroon, is nicknamed the Man in White, the owner of the St. Tropez restaurant in Bastos in the political capital of La République du Cameroon. From a source, after arriving at a routine checkpoint, he presented his documents that were complete, yet the officers were not willing to let him go.
Well, moving on with more victims from the war, late Tanga Rudolph Angre was arrested several years back in a village called Teke in Meme County due to the raging armed conflict in Amazonia. Undaunted gathered that Tanga Rudolph Angwe died after prison authorities ignored giving him medical attention in his sickbed. Tanga Rudolph Agwe is not the first and might not be the last. Many innocent victims of the armed conflict in Amazonia have died in similar circumstances, dragged to both La République du Cameroon and Amazonian prisons by the colonial occupier military without any fair trial, and some have died unnoticed or just got missing. Journalist Samuel Wazizi was detained in Boya, and while his case was still being followed up by his lawyers in Boya, mortuary attendant in a Yaoundé garrison found his lifeless body worrisome as no one was coming for it.
Also, armed men believed to be the ADF's very specialized in kidnappings, abductions, and ransom taking have released a man they kidnapped in Mile 16, Boya local government area in the war-torn southern zone. Ikiachek Jacob, the victim, sources said, was kidnapped in a bar at Mile 16, Boya on Wednesday, November 9th, 2022. Undaunted gathered that the ADF ransom seekers are said to have stormed the neighborhood, firing gunshot to disperse locals before carrying out the act.
Because of blood money, we see what a lot of Amazonians are doing. And then we brought also to you Munzu and Ayangwe, who failed to write their names on the sands of time because of the same blood money. Having been bought over by La République du Cameroon, they are now history and should allow the never again generation to go to their promised land, Boya. Dr. Munzo miscomprehends the law on an issue, furthermore conflates the widespread and systematic requirements for contextual elements for crime against humanity with context elements of genocide. He may not be aware of the jurisprudence of international courts and tribunals, many which occurred in cases in which I participated, says Charles Taku, that crimes against humanity and genocide may occur outside an armed conflict. This is from Charles Taku.
All right, and this as well would end their Undaunted weekly recap. And right after the break, we'll come up with fresh reports.
We the people, ABC Amber TV, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. The voice of the voiceless, the voice of Ambazonia, connecting the world from Africa. With untold stories, Africa's best. We the people, ABC Amber TV, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. The voice of the voiceless, the voice of Ambazonia, connecting the world from Africa with untold stories, Africa's best.
Animating debate in who is the right person to take over from the over 40 years reigning president of neighboring La Republic to Cameroon. Though not willing to step down for whatsoever, Paul Biya by nature will one day leave the presidency. This makes it imperative for him to start thinking of preserving his legacy. A movement projecting the colonial La Republic du Cameroon president's son, Frank Biya, called the Frankist movement, is tirelessly giving those who are willing to hear that he is the right person for the throne after his father. The issue here is not the number of official outings his son has made, but what the common man wishes for the nation. It is intriguingly equally to ascertain the possibility of the common man to transform wishes to reality with the heart to penetrate walls erected by those in power. With all the speculation, a compatriot has written an anonymous letter to Paul Biya calling on him not to make the mistake of pushing his son to succeed him. Is there no constitutional provision on how to replace Biya or have a new president?
Well, that is a question that you shouldn't be asking the La Republic du Cameroon. Well, there is a letter on the table of the Paul Biya, the colonial president of La Republic du Cameroon, calling on him not to be mistaken. This letter is from a Cameroonese titled Letter from a Compatriot to the President of La Republic du Cameroon. Subject, Have mercy, with an exclamation. It says, Mr. President, November 6, 1982 was a historic date for Cameroon and Cameroonians. The whole country trusted you by entrusting you with its sovereignty. In 40 years in office, you have given everything as well as your party. Cameroonians are grateful to you. Mr. President, exit through the front door. This door will close in 2025. It all depends on which side of the door you are on. Mr. President, they want to deceive you into believing that your son will be able to regain control. Cameroon is neither Gabon nor Chad nor any country of its kind. Have mercy and be wise. Mr. President, the people are reaching out to you, a compatriot. Now, this is the end of the letter that was addressed to Paul Biya of La Republique du Cameroon. Will be pushed by his ego to continue making mistakes, or will the president listen to the growing voices requesting him to go out through the front door? It is a matter of time, and we'll wait it out and see.
We the people, ABC Amber TV, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. The voice of the voiceless, the voice of Ambazonia, connecting the world from Africa with untold stories, Africa's best.
The war declared on the people of southern Cameroon's Ambazonians in 2017 by Paul Biya has created and brought two camps over the red line. One is the non-state armed group Amber Boys, with a military option to fight for the restoration of the statehood of former British Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia. And on the other hand is the La Republique du Cameroon military, with a mandate to curb the incursions of the Ambazonian Boys. Now, the aforementioned camps count their successes only when they succeed to stop the progress or take life out of a member or members of another group down. And this is the more reason why the Amber Boys, as well as the state military, are constantly on social media. The social media has become the ideal platform for both parties to demonstrate strength and successes over the opponent. Now, actions are captured by the perpetrators and dropped on social media. The recent of such videos is that of a La Republique du Cameroon soldier left in his own pool of blood by Amber Boys. Why is the colonial La Republique du Cameroon ruler not embracing a genuine dialogue to end the war or even call for a ceasefire?
A La Republique du Cameroon soldier has fallen in the hands of the Amber Boys in his own bar in Bambouin at the night, Thursday to Friday, as reported by the whistleblower Nzuin Manto. The latter was killed in his bar in Bambui. According to information, the man in uniform was first having as place of duty in Yaoundé, the political capital of La République du Cameroon, as required to continue in the discharge of his duty in his hometown. Once in Bambui, he opened his bar where he breathed his last. According to the whistleblower Zwin Manto, this soldier would be the 1,516th soldier killed since the beginning of the war. For 6 years and counting, southern Cameroons have been experiencing a major political and security crisis which have claimed more than 6,000 lives, with more than 9,000 displaced. With all these casualties and the untold sufferings that this present war has caused on the people of southern Cameroons, the colonial La République du Cameroon ruler Paul Biya has decided to be mute on it.
Well, moving on with another new report for this week. Undaunted has gathered that Bia's military terrorists stationed and camping at Chris White Hotel, Bam Kikai, few meters away from the Bui Unity Warriors' main barracks, might have been destroyed this morning.
Now, the story goes that at least the selective squad from Major General Matt Dog, Air Force of Tadu, and other Kumbo North warriors this morning, after being provoked by the colonial thugs, fired at least 3 rocket launchers, during which many BS terrorists are feared neutralized, and eyewitness still following the battle narrated. He says he did not say if there were any casualties on the side of the Unity Warriors, but he said this night will be the most devastating loss on the side of BS forces in Boyi this year. Undaunted equally learned that as soon as the Unity Warriors left, BS military terrorists brought in backup from town and they started harassing civilians and arresting them, and that a taxi driver has been stopped and molested while his passengers forcefully taken away as well.
Well, and that serious gunshots have now left the Chris White building where the terrorists are camping to the St. Augustine College Junction. A quote I'm going to read now says, "We can't understand how passengers' cars and motorbikes will get to work a few minutes after the battle now that BS terrorists are bleeding. We know that the La République du Cameroon military vented anger on civilians is to stop the civilians from covering footages for their loss and casualties, but we await them for their inner circles." This is from an eyewitness that expressed all of this. While another says all launchers were on target, and even the military that jumped out through the window met their doom, running towards St. Augustine's College as Unity Warriors, Intelligent Warriors, Air Forces, Omega 201, etc., were stationed all over and fired as they fled. This is from another witness.
Undaunted also learned the defeated Bia's military terrorists left Bam Kikai Junction after shooting and arresting civilians and were moving towards Romajai, Kikai Kelaki, and Mbiv area, and that stray bullets from the military caught 2 civilians in Kian, about 2 to 3 kilometers away from the battle scene. Here, testimony from a victim. He goes on to say, "I guess the only people who suffered greatly were the inhabitants of Bamkikai and those traveling through the Bamkikai. We were rounded up by the military and forced to lie down, some on their bellies, the rest on their back, eyes facing the hot sun. The military, however, told the over 200 individuals that their mission is to protect the civilians from the people they described as thieves who have been robbing the people and kidnapping them for ransom. They suffered to convince the huge crowd to act like intelligence recruits and signals any suspicious move to them."
Well, the phones that were taken from everyone were given back to the owners as they were told to go and to be good citizens. It is interesting that the military guys were aware of the fact that this war shall be a prolonged one, as they warned that so long as the boys did not cease hostilities against the military, the civilians would also enjoy freedom. The military station in Bamkikai have warned that anyone seen around as from 6 p.m. will be considered an enemy and thus a target for gunfire. We're left with a sigh of relief, hoping that we shan't again be victims of circumstances. Anyway, we are at war, says a victim.
We the people, ABC Amber TV, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. The voice of the voiceless, the voice of Ambazonia, connecting the world from Africa with untold stories, Africa's best.
On Thursday, November 17th, we reported of a drama that took place at Government Technical High School GTHS in Queen that forced the premature closure of the school day. The incident that was provoked by a scuffle between students and the Colonial Law Republic to Cameroon military saw the destruction of didactic materials and other structures. The Colonial Senior Divisional Officer for Mazam, Simeon Emile Mo, has issued a statement stating that what transpired. Now, in the communique, he makes it clear that conservatory measures have been taken against the said security officer. Tongues have been wagging that why such a measure be administered on an officer that senior divisional officer in his letter never blamed for doing anything wrong.
The Colonial Senior Divisional Officer for MESAM, Simon Emile Mo, in a communique of November 17, 2022, stating the circumstances that led to the exchange between students of GTHS in Bamenda and the Colonial La Republique du Cameroon soldiers camped there. Now, according to Simon Emile Mo, a student defied disciplinary tenets and became uncontrollable as attempts to discipline him failed. Ngong Devin, a student of BC4 GTHS in Queen, arrived on campus around 8 a.m. on Thursday, 17th November, unkept and looking drugged, he added as findings of preliminary findings. Now, the communique continues by stating how the student challenged the discipline master and security forces. Surprised to see a student in such a state, the discipline master stopped him from questioning. In the course of questioning, Devin suddenly became aggressive and unruly, noticing the strange, suspicious, and dreadful behavior of the student. One of the security officers on duty on campus intervened and subdued the student. This is quotes from the state SDO. Now, the statement by Simon Emile Mo, the colonial SDO for MESM, contradicting the video on the incident. In one of the videos on what happened, a cuffed student is bundled, lifted up, and flung to the ground by a security officer. We'd like to see that first video now.
The SDO in his communique said that the group. All right, so I'm sure you're seeing that for yourself, and you're seeing the lies that are told. Now, the SDA in his communique says that the group of persons who vandalized the institutions were not students, but a group of non-students under the influence of drugs. Divine's co-drugged friends, non-students, who were roaming outside the school premises, first entered the campus and went on rampage, destroying didactic materials and other equipment, the communique added. Now, this statement equally is not true. Undaunted visited the school and was opportuned to talk to some of the students who manifested their hatred to the stationed security officer at the campus of GTHS in Bamenda. The student said that these military men here seize belongings of students, a tax we know is a responsibility of our discipline masters. We just wanted to know today that we don't consider them as our discipline masters, a student opined. Now, the above student who voted for anonymity stated that the vandalization of the school was carried out by students who have been maltreated by the colonial military camped there. He goes on to explain more, says, as a student, I must confess that the presence of security officers makes us uncomfortable and frightening. We can't concentrate, and we are saying that we do not want them again on our campus. Another student added that.
Now, since the start of the 2022-2023 academic year, Colonia's so-called forces of law and order are camped in different institutions of learning, but on the contrary, these forces are often accused of harassing the students instead of giving them security. The communique of the SDO is self-contradictory. He accuses a group of non-students under the influence of drugs for vandalizing the school. Shockingly, at least at the last one paragraph, the communique states that conservatory measures have been taken against the said security officer. Now, as you can see, this is a picture of the press release, but how can a communique be painting the colonial military as saints to what happened? I mean, what everybody saw on screen just now, with all blames on Ngong Deving and his co-drugged friends. Say again that a conservatory measures have been taken against the said security officer. The security of students is in schools cannot be guaranteed by La République du Cameroon colonial military. Their place is not in schools, but in the barracks, which is normal.
We the people, ABC Amber TV, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. The voice of the voiceless, the voice of Ambazonia, connecting the world from Africa. With untold stories, Africa's best.
Right, this is to apologize and also inform you that our traditional interview segment after the Undaunted Weekly Recap has been suspended for today. Now, this is solely because Momo County is currently conducting an election where all tiers of government has been invited, including ABC Amber TV, and as such, we will not be having the exclusive interview tonight.
Well, also the Judiciary Commission chairperson Barrister Tim Mbesia, the Attorney General Frujon Nso, Nijo, who are guests of the show, will be there as well as observers of the election, including the ABC Amber News Director. Now, ABC Amber News was informed during the week about the election, but we were not able to bring the contestants, the candidates, up until now because the candidates have not been announced. Well, another reason also is we would have loved to profile the candidates and set up debates of the candidates as well. But up until now, the candidates are not yet disclosed and reasons could not be stated yet because of time, or maybe the county committee did not collaborate with ABC Amber TV properly. However, we understand that the 1-year term of the county coordinators and executives has expired, but during this year, Amazonian Stakeholders and Strategic Conference, ASSC2, a resolution was voted for by stakeholders to extend the term of office and county coordinator and executives to 2 years.
But according to the Attorney General, Barrister Frujon Nso, the resolution has not been passed into law because the interim House of Representatives is yet to vote and adopt it. So, the intricacies involved with this election will be observed when we have these gentlemen back on exclusive interview by Monday. But until then, we'll be following up the election closely.
So leave you now with ABC Amber TV Images. Good night and God bless you.